Sup, Nerdmigos? I'm the Jive Talking Nerd, John Norcroft. We've got Wife here. We are here for another review Jive. It is Memorial Day. We are shooting this on the day because we had the day off and we didn't do anything this weekend with regard to shooting.
We have plenty of stuff.
I rearranged the kitchen and I need to get this done right away so I can paint the kitchen.
Yes.
So, whatever. We'll catch up on that one later. So, last night, we when we were having dinner, we're like, oh, let's put on some sort of action-adventure sort of nonsense, right? So, Netflix has been, and I don't know about for you guys, but very aggressively pushing this movie.
Yeah.
Starring...
what's it called? Code 8?
Starring Robbie Amell, Stephen Amell's brother.
Yeah.
Called Code 8. And Code 8 was, and correct me in the dibbly-doo if I'm wrong here, but Code 8 was, if I remember correctly, Code 8 was kickstarted. So
yeah.
Robbie and Stephen Amell threw together, or maybe just Robbie Amell, but I think it was both of them, Robbie and Stephen Amell, threw together like a teaser trailer with this concept with like some of their buddies and stuff. And then they had it like kickstarted or Indiegogo'd or something like that. Because I wanted to kickstart it, but I found out like the day after it got done on Kickstarter or whatever.
Yeah.
This was and this was a while ago. And then I was just like, oh, okay, well I missed it. Like, you know, whatever, it'll come out. And when this first came out, because I first saw it on Netflix, I was like, oh man, that's that thing that I want to watch. And then immediately it went to the bottom of the list because it's an ever-growing list of shit that's like. Because Netflix is really kind of sucking some D's right now.
Yeah, man.
Really,
I feel like
really
they're
dropping the fucking ball.
sometimes they're like game hard, and sometimes they're not.
Sauce.
Yeah.
Anywho, so I'm going to read to you the description, and then we'll talk about that. So, the description on this one is fucking useless. A desperate young man possessing special powers clashes with police force after committing a petty crime.
I mean, that's not wrong, but that doesn't really describe the movie very well.
It doesn't give you literally any information about what this movie's about. So
also, I have some issues with petty crime.
Well, the first crime was petty.
Yeah,
right. It was just breaking.
Subsequent that was not.
It was
petty.
just breaking and entering, I guess. A little B&E.
Just a little light beanie.
Little gentle B&E. So, this movie takes place in, like, Liberty City or some sci-fi nonsense city.
Yeah, it's like some big city.
It looks like a cross between, like, San Francisco and maybe, like, Chicago.
Yeah, it does look a little like that.
Like, there are scenes in the housing areas where it looks a lot like SF, like the neighborhoods. And there are scenes in, like, the building area where it looks a little bit more like big East Coast city than SF, but real talk, this movie could have been shot in SF, and I just don't know. You know,
yeah,
like
we don't really know.
Yeah, we don't really know. But
well, Stephen Amell lives in like Washington or something like that.
Oh, it could be in. It could totally be in like Seattle.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah,
the city itself is bigger than any city that we have. Well, really on Earth right now. So it's kind of
infinitely large city. So in this universe. Some people, it seems around like the 1800s, started showing up with superpowers.
Yeah. Yeah,
so
everybody has like a power.
It seems about the time that like New York was getting its skyscrapers in our history. So that like miasmic second industrial revolution or whatever the fuck that's called. So it seems like around then people started showing up with powers, although again it's not super clear. And like America was like, this is great, war efforts, industrialization, and so they this person can like float heavy steel girders, and this person can like laser through pipes, and like this person can like wire things to like weld or wire or fucking whatever.
It's all like the stuff in the credits in the beginning.
This is just the
people
setup
have
stuff.
More than just like construction grade powers.
yeah, sort of. Yeah. So first of all, we never really get length, breadth, or width of the powers that these people have.
Yeah.
But it seems like the most common powers are heavies, which can carry heavy shit. Yeah. Right, and they're like strong. There's levitators who can float shit. There are electricals who can like wire shit or like charge shit.
But also like can shoot lightning from their
But only at incredibly uncommonly high levels. The lightning from your body part is only because he's like hyper buff. And there's heat people who can like superheat shit with their hands. Yeah. And like melt through like, shit or cut through beams.
Healers who can like heal.
They're healers, but again, healers are super rare. Yeah. So I'm talking about I'm talking about the most common powers.
There's also
are
like
just those ones.
Like kind of like mind readers, but
not
more...
a most common power. So 99% of the powers are just the ones that I listed, right? So it's just heavies, floaters, electricity, and heaters. That's it, right? That is far and away the most common power. Really, every other power in the movie, other than those 4 powers, you only see one person with.
Yeah.
Only. Yeah. And even that, our main characters, half of them are just again common powers. So yes. Technically, there's
also freezers.
But again, we only ever see one.
Yeah.
We only ever see one. So we really only ever see these main 4 common powers, which seems to be like the ones that are like most people have if they have a power. It looks like something like a very low percentage of these people have powers. And it's the whole thing is like America had these superpowered people build our infrastructure and our skyscrapers and stuff.
And now then years later.
And then America was just like, hey, guess what? That guy can lift a steel beam with his fucking mind powers. He's scary. So minority. Yeah. And then they just put them all in the ghetto and they become criminals.
Yeah, and they restricted the use of using your powers.
You can only use your powers for work if you're permitted to do so, and it sounds like they give out those permits almost never. Actually, we never saw a permitted powered person.
Yeah, well,
in the movie,
that could be a function of just the story,
the area and the story, but still,
area, the
they didn't have. And the thing is that so. Take a step back before I get into the permitted thing. So these people are treated like minorities, right? These powered people, and you know the media talks bad about them, and it's very like X-Men. The public doesn't like mutants thing.
Yeah.
But this isn't an allegory to racism, or if it is, it's not a great one.
Yeah, it's actually, well, it is
It's not really an allegory for, like, the plight of Latinos or African Americans or women or Asian Americans
was originally written as, like, an allegory to racism and inclusivity and has kind of, like, and has kind of just, like, kept that whole inclusivity bent there. So this didn't really seem to have, like, a grander message.
They were, like regular non-powered people don't like powered people.
Yeah.
That's it. We don't like them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't... They're bad guys. And based on the ones that we met, yes.
Yeah.
So, I don't... There was, like, none of them were, like, trying to do... Like...
Our main character is, like, trying to do good.
Kind of trying to do good because he's, like, kind of trying to help his mom.
He has
but he also
intentions, which is different than
instantaneously fucking heel turns. Let me tell you what... Every character in this movie, you're just like, maybe this person's not that bad.
Oh no, I was wrong.
That's somebody's insides being on the outside now. Okay,
that's a fucking monster. Bad person.
Cool. What about this guy? Oh nope, he's already covered in blood. Okay. All these powered people are murderers.
What we thought this movie was a
basically off-brand X-Men.
Off-brand X-Men, and also maybe like a little bit My Hero Academia, which we've actually been binge watching. So look forward to seeing some videos on that in the future. But what it ended up being was like a crime heist kind of a movie, but not really only a heist, just like kind of heisty mob.
Well, it's
seedy underworld.
It's an organized drug. It's an organized drug crime movie. Yeah. So they can tap powered people's spinal fluid to make a drug called psych. And I don't know, whatever.
They don't really talk about it very much, so we don't know what it does.
Whatever generic high is for people who don't do drugs, I guess. I have no fucking clue.
It makes you movie generic high.
It was just like, there's a couple of scenes where you see somebody doing it, and it seems to be, it seems like they're cutting spinal fluid with some sort of a saline, and then they're just dropping it into your eye.
Like, it's a drug that you take via eyedropper.
Boop, boop, and then your skin glows a little bit, and that's it.
Yeah. We don't know what it does. It's just
nice,
seems to make you happy.
But
it's
that
just
one girl was like on it, tripping, whatever. And she's like, drop, and she's like, and like glowy. And the guy's like, Brenda! And she's like, what's up?
Her name isn't Brenda.
It doesn't matter what her name is. But, really, it doesn't. But he just like yells her name like 2 times. And then she's just like, what's up? Okay. And then she's fucking not high anymore. So, I don't think these people know what drugs is.
Or she was like, okay.
Only a little high?
Yeah. Because she only did 1 drop.
And we don't know. Is that a lot? Is that a little?
Do you build up an immunity?
Was it pure? What do those things mean?
Yeah, we don't know anything about this
math?
stuff. Yeah, they didn't.
Is it math? No.
Is it math?
Is it math? No.
Is it math?
But yeah.
Your face
what's all this face on my face?
Yeah, they don't really talk that much about the drug. Actually, that kind of thing that they do, they do that kind of thing throughout the movie.
Watch
where
over
they
stuff.
they don't really like fully explain stuff, which actually I don't really mind, because it's not like you have that like aside where they're like, oh well, this you know, you don't have that like kind of dissonant moment where they need to explain everything.
Not telling, which is nice, but they also some things, because the background sound of this movie is almost a constant news report about how people with powers are fucking literal criminals and pieces of shit. And so you're like, oh my god, it's like it's a little intense or whatever. But the problem is that a lot of shit is just glanced over. They talk about like, I need a level 2 electric, I need a level 3 heavy, or whatever the fuck. But they don't really give you any sort of modus of scaling.
Yeah, the furthest we know scaling goes
our
is
heroes,
5.
our main characters are, but it sounds like 1 is better?
No.
Or
the
is
higher
5
the number
better?
was better.
Okay.
Because they're like, what, level 3? More like level 5. So, you know, we've got some like things where they don't really explain it, but I'm kind of okay with that.
They don't really
explain it
like,
doesn't have that like dissonant moment during the movie.
Yeah,
but that's fine.
It also appears that what your power is like sort of randomly assigned at birth.
Yeah, it doesn't.
You just have like the doctor just spins a wheel and like inject him with fire stuff. I guess the main guy's an electric. His mom was a freezer.
A freezer.
His dad was probably an electric.
His dad was an electric. They talk about it in.
But
we don't know
we meet a kid whose power is to stick things to other things. We never see it happen, but it's like a throwaway line that describes it, but it appears that both of her parents are normals. So there's also the side ones, like the side powers that Julie was talking about.
So it's very much like X-Men in that respect.
Mind readers. There's whatever that girl is that can stick stuff to stuff. That's it.
Well, there's...
Oh, and the freezy, and the mom who can freeze.
Well,
I'm trying to think of other powers.
We already talked about this. There's like healers.
I know. There's just other than those main 4. There was just healers, psychic. Specifically, he can read your mind.
Well, and project images into your mind. There were 2 different ones that were psychic.
Project images into your mind. Who projected images into somebody's mind?
The girl the bald girl. That was one of her powers.
Are we sure about that, man?
Yes. Absolutely.
I don't think so.
Absolutely.
I don't think that's what she could do.
I feel like you weren't paying attention. So
No. I think she could just change the way she looked. I don't think that was projecting her new look into the mind. I think that was like
no, that was
like the girl, like the Gloop girl from My Hero, who can just physically change her shape.
It wasn't projecting. No. She could project images into your mind. Because there is one scene when they're in the club and she's like with the drug guy, and she uses her powers. You can tell because their eyes light up. Yeah. And
so that's a pretty cool effect, actually.
And they're like, oh, what do you see? And it's like, she's showing me all the various ways she's going to slit my throat. So she can project images into his mind.
No, he's the mind reader.
No. So she was talking to somebody else.
He was just reading her mind, bro.
You were clearly not paying attention to that. No.
She's wrong. Don't worry. He was just reading her mind because he was like, how could I trust, like like, what's up? What are you gonna fucking do?
No.
And the guy's like, you gotta read this bitch is mine. She's the murderer. So like, you gotta know this fucking truth.
Anyway, Robbie Amell in this looks.
Also, everybody only has one power. There's no like 2 power or 3 power people.
Not that I could.
And there was no blending of powers. It's very weird. It's very weird. It's like X-Men Light. It's just V-Men. It's the top of the X.
In X-Men, most people only have 1 power.
No, I mean, but with X-Men, there's such a vaster range of powers. But also,
well, there probably
there's a vaster skill level of powers
too, because
they just don't address
this movie is written very much like how a TV show would be written. So we kind of like saw like 1 season of episodes basically throughout a movie, and I feel like if you were to have another season or another movie, you would have more powers introduced.
Yeah.
So I think we only saw the powers introduced as the scope because they're not really explaining the broader universe that this takes place in, which is totally fine. But like really the thing that I want to know is why is it that Robbie Amell looks like his brother Stephen and Taylor Lautner melded together to make him? Because he looks like the wolf kid from the Twilight movies and Stephen Amell.
I don't agree with that either.
He does. Yeah.
I don't.
So our main character.
I don't think that he looks like the wolf kid. From the Twilight movies at all.
Yeah, he totally does. We talked about it when we were watching
I know, but I'm still pretty certain it's wrong.
You agreed with me.
Maybe I agreed with you so we could stop talking about it. Maybe that's
at this point, I'm just going to agree with you. So
I don't know that he looks like the wolf kid. He does look scary like Stephen Amell.
Yeah, he does.
Maybe in the movie because he was just like...
So our main
dingy.
character has lightning powers, and he lives kind of like in the ghetto, and he's one of those guys that like goes to the hardware store and like waits for somebody to pick him up for a job. And there's a lot of that because people are not really, a lot of people with powers have been marginalized, and they're not really able to hold like regular jobs because of their powers, so they have to like hide that they have powers.
So much so that it appears that nobody with powers, again, and this is one of those like you're only seeing this part of the story, but we are never shown a regular person who has powers. Like, all people with powers are either criminals or destitute. The only one who has a job is the mom, and it seems like...
And she barely has a job.
It seems like, one, she barely has a job, but, like, her fucking boss is openly just, because she has, like, an illness of some sort.
Cancer.
Where she's losing her power.
Cancer.
She's losing control of her powers.
Yeah.
And, like, at one point in time, she, like, accidentally freezes a can of spaghetti sauce or whatever, and it falls on the ground. And he's just like, you freaks, blah, blah, blah. I mean, really, this movie just has, like, open and public racism. Like, across the board. The news, the cops, the regular people on the street. Like, so Robbie is doing, like, odd construction jobs under the table. So it's the, like, there's, like, 12 dudes in front of a some sort of hardware
abandoned store.
It's not even a full store. It's just like an abandoned building with a parking lot, and like people drive up with their trucks, and they're like, "I need 2 heavies and a conductor or whatever the fuck." And get in the back, and then they drive off, right? And so it's like, okay, that's fine, but like people just like drive by and they're just like, "Fuck you, freaks," and they're like throwing drinks at them and shit.
Yeah,
it's weirdly racist. Like the racism's super fucking intense in this movie. Not about anybody. This is actually a super inclusive movie. Like everybody's every kind of color and whatever the fuck. But and there's like multi-gendered couples and shit like that. But multi-racial couples and shit like that. But I don't know where my mind went there. But it's like 9 different gendered people all married together. It's a weird movie. No, it has nothing to do with anything. But like again, it's that like everything's racist. But to an extreme level. Like, everybody's super racist against people with powers.
Yeah.
Like, if you have powers, you're just a criminal.
Whether you're a criminal or not.
It's fucking crazy town.
Yeah.
Like, it's so racist, and they're so aggressive, and they attack so hard about it.
Yeah.
I
mean, maybe there is, like, some to it being an allegory for racism.
I guess, but again, it's... If anything, it's an allegory to, like broad stroke Southern get her done racism, and even that's not that racist. I mean, there's no example of that level of just like the news is like these fucking freaks, and the cops are like these fucking freak criminals, and people on the streets are like these fucking freaks that are threatening my family, and you're like, this nigga's just walking down the road. He's kind of not doing anything, but okay, like it's real weird, man.
Yeah.
I get what they're doing, but at the same time, like. Take it down or
feels,
up a notch.
It feels
put it in a different notch.
The way that is.
Yeah.
But, so anyway, our main character Robbie is like a ne'er-do-well.
Vanilla Taylor Lautner.
Yeah, Vanilla Taylor Lautner.
Is Taylor Lautner brown?
I don't know.
Nor do I,
I don't know at all. He's got the same facial structure. It's crazy. So so he is like a construction guy who takes odd jobs under the table, and he lives with his mom. His mom has brain cancer, and it's causing her like freezy powers to like mess up, and it's really kind of bad, like how all that illness is going for her.
Yeah.
And he's like, we need to get you your medicine, and she's like, we can't afford it. So he's like, I'll find a way to make money. So he's at the abandoned shop looking for work, and this like something electric van, like company name electric van shows up. And guess who it is? It's his brother, Stephen Amell.
Yeah. And also his boy. So Robbie has this like older black gentleman who's his like friend, who's a heavy, I think.
Yeah.
And like the van, like Generic Electric Company. Generic Electric Company Incorporated drives up in their van, and they're like, we're looking for a
lightning level
like
3.
like an electric level 2 or level 3 or some bullshit, whatever fucking nonsense throwaway lines they're using, and like his buddy's just like, fuck these guys, super shady. They work with like psych runners and stuff, and
which is drugs, right?
Which is drugs, and you're like, oh, and then like they're like, come on guys, anybody need some work? And of course...
And they're like, we'll pay you good money.
And of course he's
right
just
after
like...
the conversation with his mom. So he's like, I'll go. And his friend's like, ooh. And he's like, whatever. So he gets in the van, and it's Stephen Amell, and his power is moving stuff.
He's a floater,
Yeah, he's a TK, I think they were calling him.
Were they calling him TKs?
They kind of changed names. And then there's a girl, and she is one of those
really
like,
only like push, pull,
people.
and float stuff.
Yeah, she's one of those heat people.
She's a
and then
heater.
there's a heavy who is mute. So they go, and they're gonna go and like steal some barrels of
drums
stuff.
of chemicals from Generic Chemical Company Incorporated.
Yes. So they go and they do the thing, and he has to take care of the electric fence. And not only does he like short out the electric fence, he does it in like
spectacular
plus
fashion.
ultra spectacular way.
And then of course, like Stephen Amell's just like, ooh, this guy, he might
better than a level 3.
He might be better than he thinks he is.
So they smuggle the drugs, they take it to the drug guy at the club, and the club guy's like, hey, make sure these guys have whatever they want. So then there's this girl.
Generic club.
Yeah, generic club.
Listen, everything it's generic grocery store. You see 2 aisles, there's groceries on it. Fucking deal with that. It's like generic chemical company, generic police department. Those cops walking around doing police
everything's
stuff.
Generic.
It's
okay
not.
Though. I don't mind
it's good. No, it's good. It's good. It's Liberty City. So what do you expect?
Yeah.
Right?
You know what? It makes it easier to like transplant that to whatever city it is that you want it to be. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they get to the club, and the drug dealer main guy is like, hey, make sure your people have whatever you want. Susie, go show them around.
Who cares?
Brenda. And she takes Robbie Lautner.
Yeah, she takes like
over
Robbie
the
Lautner.
bar, and he's like, you can tell immediately that he's supposed to get the feels for her, because he does start getting the feels for her, but she is just like fucking cardboard about it. And I get her, I understand after seeing the whole thing why her personality is like that, but it just felt weird to me.
Yeah.
Like, why is he super into her and she's very like fucking cardboardy about it? And
really, the why is he super into her part is pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, because she just kind of looks like a strung out like gun ball, basically.
she's like a strung out drug addict who's like literally like that's the point of her character.
Well, and he thought that she was like the girlfriend of the main drug dealer guy. He says that later on.
Yeah.
You know, so it's kind of like, what are you doing, man? That's how you get murdered. So Stephen Amell is like, hey, good job, bro. Here's a bonus because you did so good. So Robbie is like, oh man, this is super great. So he gets home and his mom's like, hey, how'd it go? And he's like, oh, I had like a late night. And she's like, don't you turn out like your father. He got killed while he was knocking off a liquor store. And you're just like, oh, I see. He's following in his dad's footsteps. And then she's like, don't follow in your dad's footsteps. And you're like, obviously he's going to follow in his dad's footsteps. So the next day he goes back to the abandoned store.
Some length of time.
Yeah, we don't really
Everything is some length.
I'm assuming
or distances.
I'm assuming it's the next day. I mean, so like the next day in the movie, they go.
The next movie scene.
The next movie day, they go back to the place, and he's like, "Oh, about ready to get a job." So like the same guy that has given them jobs, that's like on the up and up for construction in the past, pulls up. But at the same time, an electrician guy, Stephen Amell, pulls up, and Robbie Lottner
in like a Buick LeSabre or some shit like that. Dude. Let me tell you what, absurd. The cars were fucking 90s as fuck in this movie. Yeah. Like half of the cars are like ghetto 90s cars, and the other half are like weird fancy sci-fi cars.
Yeah, it was very
so
strange.
Fucking weird, man.
So he comes and and Taylor and Robbie is like, I'm gonna go with these guys. So he goes with those guys to essentially start and fulfill his life of crime. And they go and they do a bunch of escapades. They're supposed to knock off a bank. And let me tell you guys, I work in banking.
That's not how banks work.
There is only one movie that has ever pulled off something that looks legitimate for a bank heist. And that movie... Actually, no, there's two movies. One movie is...
Ocean's 11 and Ocean's 12.
No, it is neither of those movies.
I think those movies aren't even about bank heists.
They're not about bank heists. There's one that's The Bank Job, and that one has Jason Statham in it.
The Bank Job.
And that's the one where they're trying to get into the bank vault so that they can get into the safety deposit boxes. That one is fairly accurate for how the inner part of banking
just like the
works.
Inside of a bank. In
and
general,
then the other one is
the
horror movie that we watched where the bank vault was haunted.
Yeah, the Haunted Bank Vault one was really good.
One. I think that one's on Netflix. I don't remember what that one's called.
Yeah.
But that was a really good one. So that is my pet peeve. Every bank job movie, I'm always like, that's not what a bank vault looks like. That's not how this works. I cannot even.
Banks keep their money in Tupperware bins on shelves.
In this movie,
in a vault.
Tupperware bins.
Also, the vault's really tiny, and they're like there's like a code, like a key code. And then there's a camera, so there's somebody offside. The first guy wasn't entering a dial, so there's a key code and a camera.
All right, and there's a dial.
So there's a key code to get in, and then the camera, and so you got a key code in your secret number to enter the vault, and then you got to look at the camera. Somebody offside's watching that. But if like the electricity goes down, there's just like a regular knobby dial thingy.
And you only need one. My banking friends, y'all know that.
Yeah,
right?
there's only one of them. So like it's like if there's electricity, double security. But if there's not electricity, well, we just have the doors automatically open. So don't worry.
So they go to knock off this bank because there's supposed to be a ton of money or whatever. Then they get there, they hold everybody up. It's like a hostage kind of situation. They got their like ski masks and stuff on, and they get the girl to open the bank vault, and there's like barely any money in these Tupperware drawers. And they're like pissed off and they leave. The girl was like, they already picked up the money. Like they basically came too late. But they got the intel.
Like earlier that day, 2 hours ago. Which is great. You think they'd have somebody like watching the bank just in case?
They got the intel from the main drug dealer guy.
Yeah, from the main
Stephen Amell goes back to the drug dealer guy and is livid, understandably
He's like, the fuck, bro.
Yeah, and he's like, well, that's not my problem. And Stephen Amell is like, yes, it is. And Stephen Amell...
You go rob this bank. Here's some information. And then when you come back and you're like, I was only able to rob like $500.
Well, and at this point, Stephen Amell wants to either be a partner or be in charge of this seedy underworld.
Yeah.
Or of this section of the seedy underworld, that is. And
this particular chapter of seedy underworld.
And he has it out for the main drug dealer guy. So then, like, more random stuff happens with like crimes and stuff, and Robbie
Robbie learns how to use his powers more,
and he like tells, because he's gone all the time, his mom thinks he's got a regular job. He's like, oh, I had an interview with that place, it was so good, and he's like putting all his money like in it. He's putting all this like cash money that he's earning from these jobs in his like nightstand drawer. the most secure place you can think of.
Yep.
And he's just like hiding it. Okay, so Robbie puts his money,
he's hiding his money
in the nightstand, and he's hiding it under what looks like his voter registration card, which is the most obscure.
His mom finds it. She's like, "Why are you doing this? I called your job." She calls the place that
he said he worked at. They've never heard of him.
So he lied.
He lied. She's pissed, but she's also like super sick, and like she's pissed at him.
She's pissed, and then she goes from regular, I can work a day job, sick, to I need to be hospitalized and I'm basically unconscious forever sick.
Yeah.
In that instant that she's like, we don't want you to do I don't want you to go down the path of your father. And he's just like, we got to do something. Nobody respects powered people. And she's like, and then she's in the hospital.
So he has to take her to the hospital, and at the hospital they're like, it's a good thing you brought her now. And he's like, can we fix her? And they're like, no, the tumor's pressing against her brain, and there's literally nothing we can do. She's going to die.
Yeah.
A terrible death. And you're like, that's awful. Yeah. Like, that's terrible. So then this only further pushes Robbie to resolve his idea that he's going to become basically a criminal mastermind, which he is not a mastermind. He is a person that makes a lot of mistakes. So he goes...
Everybody in this movie is really not a smart person in this movie. That's a lie. That's a lie. The Asian cop is the smartest guy in this movie.
Oh, yeah. There's also like a bunch of cops sniffing around.
There's like cop stuff. At one point in time, he gets brought into like a police interview, which really looks like it's in... It looks like it's in a warehouse with a back room. Or it looks like it's in maybe an auto parts store with a back room, and they just like replaced all the shelving.
Well, and there's like a screen on the wall
stuff.
that have all the pictures of the suspects up on the screen, and I'm like, that one's him.
But they bring Robbie in, right? And there's two cops. There's the Asian guy cop and the white guy cop. And the Asian guy cop is just like, hey, listen, man, like we're just trying to work with you here. Like we understand that like powered people, whatever the fuck. Like we don't need to trip on this. Like you help us catch the big fish,
and
we don't even know who the fuck you are, dog. So don't even worry about it, right? And then the white guy cop is just like, your mother's a whore, and you should die in the fucking fires of hell. And your people are the reason why fucking great presidents die, and why criminals exist, and why babies die. Like this guy is. You would think that Robbie Amell personally murdered this dude's mom in front of him. The level of fucking hate. At one point in time, they step out, and he's just like, we should have just put a bullet in that kid's head right now. Saved us a whole lot of trouble. And the other cop, the Asian guy cop's like, what?
So obviously Robbie does not work with them because the white guy cop, like, basically
is so racist. The racism in this movie is just unlogical.
Well,
lacks
or
logic.
It's so realistic that that you realize how illogical it is. We don't really know.
I guess. I don't think so. It's really
Robbie
weird.
takes a job and gets like a big payout, and but before he takes the job, he's like, "Hey, crime boss, I'll do this
Robbie
job.
comes up with the
But
job.
at the end, you have to give me whatever I want because he learns that this girl that he's got like the fifis for is a healer.
Yeah, she heals like a scratch on his arm.
Yeah.
So he when he's being interviewed by the cops or something, somehow he's being interviewed by the cops, and like the cops let it slip, or it's on a piece of paper or something, and basically he finds out that like all the psych that they've been stealing, right, and they're trying to rob like $500,000, $1 million or whatever, right? Well, all the psych, which is worth like $4 million worth of psych, is all going to be transported across the city to be burned, because what they do is cops collect all the drugs, and then they transport it on an armored carrier to the outskirts of the city, and then they burn the drugs. That's how the cops deal with the drugs, right? So he's like, we're gonna...
It's liquid, though, so I don't really get it, but all right.
It's like soft soap. You know, like soft soap?
It is! It's like soap.
Literally, I think that they use soft soap in it. It looks like that... Maybe. It looks like that, like kind of sparkly soft soap shit that you get in like the office bathroom over there.
Yeah, that white stuff.
Like that white soap stuff. So okay. So they're like we're gonna burn it, and so Robbie's like, I got a great plan, guys. Let's rob the armored truck. Right? And while all of this is happening in this movie, so the way that humans have learned to combat superpowered people is by one, just murdering them.
Yep.
And two, they invented drones that have two robots.
Huge drones.
That have two human-sized robots in it that fly over, and then they drop the robots.
And they're called Guardians.
Yeah, and then the robots just fucking at no point in time do we see a robot at all just arrest a guy. The robots
these
are just
robots are there to terminate.
bang, bang, bang,
and
bang,
actually,
bang, 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 bang.
these robots are...
They're fucking terrifying.
Horrifying.
Also, the fucking graphics in this movie, let me tell you what, CGI, fucking primo.
Yeah, is perfect.
Primo
These robots
fucking CGI.
are horrifying. Let me tell you, if you wanted to think of the most terrifying thing that a Sentinel could be, it's like an X-Men Sentinel could be, it's nothing that you've seen in the X-Men movies. Not
it's
even
not like
the
a
one
giant
with the
dumb
time
robot.
travel thing, because those were kind of scary. But it's these things, because these things are horrifying.
They did a good job animating them to move very robotically.
They look like they could exist in the RoboCop universe.
They're very similar to the robots in Chappie.
Yeah, they are.
Incredibly similar
and they're
to
just
robots in
human-like enough, but also not human to hit that uncanny valley spot.
Yeah, they're really good. The graphics are super good. Like all the like, oh, I'm levitating a beam, or like I'm throwing cinder blocks at this guy,
all
or
the CGI stuff
like
is really. I mean, really, like we've said a
whatever.
lot of things we don't like about this movie, but this movie was actually really good.
It was a good movie, good action, good CGI.
The plot felt a little rushed and a little incomplete, like it was being written as a TV show, which is.
It feels like a rough draft. It feels like the Amell brothers wrote that. Like, what if we did this like dope comic book? And then they got it kickstarted, and they got enough money to do enough to get it backed by a studio, and the studio was like, "Do it," and they're like, "Yeah, okay, cool, we got this." And so it it's not super flushed out,
but it's really well done.
It is good, and it's fun while you're in it. You know, and we don't want to go too much into the end.
Yeah, the ending
and how
does
the end
feel
of it ends.
a little rushed, and I actually wasn't super pleased with the end, but that's primarily with the actions of the characters.
Awful.
Yeah, so you don't go through this movie and expect to see like a character arc for anyone.
You'll see character lines.
You'll see they're kind of like this.
Just a flat line.
They're curves. They flatten the curve.
I guess it's a curve. It's a curve insofar as you started out not knowing about Robbie Amell, and now you know about him. But that's really no change in his character.
And my curve
so much
of love for Stephen Amell is just going.
Oh my god!
I love Stephen Amell
so good.
So much.
Yeah, he's really
everything
good.
he does.
Both of them are really good. And in reality, all the actors do a good job in this movie, and the graphics are good, and it's a really cool concept. But it's a really rough plot. There wasn't like a big crime, like a big crime. Or the powers originated in Nazi Germany, World War II, or something. There has to be a reason other than, well, this guy has powers and I don't, so I hate him. And I get that. I mean, like, I understand how fucking racist
there doesn't though, because X-Men.
Yeah, but the X-Men always have the bad ones that are like doing extreme shit.
Maybe these guys are the bad guys with powers.
No, I get that.
That are the thing, and there's good guys out there with powers.
But then why would the news talk about every person with powers should be put down? Right?
That's literally what happens in X-Men. That's literally what happens in X-Men. I know,
but X-Men has at least a reason to dislike him. I mean, like, I get that there's psych and there's drugs on the street, and I get that, like these guys have superpowers, so they're more powerful than you, and I guess that's scary or some stupid person.
I mean, the way that I'm looking at that is like...
The racism in it was too extreme. It would have been fine if the racism had been toned down, and it was just like, okay, like, we don't like people with powers, and these guys are criminals. That shit makes sense. The problem is that like, powers equals hate. Is really the depth of racism here is like powers equal hate, and there's and that hate is absolute like black hate, and there's no, I mean, like the news talking about something like a tiny throwaway to justify that amount of hate. Or, I mean, take that hate back, like, 10%, dog. Because that was, like, I mean, the hate was, like, Nazi levels of hate.
Yeah, it was.
Right? It was crazy extreme hate. But without any history, because what we were shown is that powers have been around for, like, 100 years. And they are the reason why we have skyscrapers, and are the reason why we have all these fantastical technologies. And then, machines were invented to automate systems, and so we threw away all these powers people and now we hate them.
Well,
which is literally the beginning of the movie.
Really, I think really your issue with that is that they didn't explain it. And
no, I don't mean an explanation on the hate.
Because
but
we're not looking at like an explanation of why any of that
has to be justified.
Yeah, but we're not. This story isn't about that. This story is about
certainly about that, or they would have been on the news all the time.
The story is about these specific people doing this thing. The story isn't about like the history of people who have powers or the history of why people have hate for that stuff.
Right, but but they did spend the time to tell us the history of the people who have powers, and they spend almost every waking background sound on people hating powers people. Like, all the background noise was about the hate. I mean, all the cops are, like, insanely hate-filled.
Yes, but again, you have to parallel that to not only racism in general. In certain parts of America, we're pretty cloistered from that living in Northern California.
I get
but
that.
Also, you have to think about X-Men. And in X-Men, everybody with powers was hated. For no reason.
No, for pretty solid Magneto-y reasons.
Well, even before Magneto was around, they hated it. The X-Men. Like, you're really glossing over those parts.
I mean, I guess, but it's not as full frontal a hate, and the fact that there's not even a hint that, like, they tell you that you could have powers to do your job, but at one point in time, he basically tells the cops, like, it's too expensive to get a license to have powers to do a job, and they're like, yeah, that's the fucking point, dog. You know, like, we're like, technically you can, but we're not going to do it. And then there's the background talk about how they're trying to ban all powers or some nonsense like that.
Yeah, it's very... The way that I look at this movie is like it exists in the X-Men
logic of
universe.
X-Men and then just like pulled all of the raison d'etre out of it, and they're just like, this building structure
I think the thing that you're missing here is that we're not looking at like the good versus evil, like the echelon good versus the echelon evil that you do in X-Men. You're looking at like the everyman in like sort of the not... You know, the other wrong side of the tracks.
You're at the
that's the way that I am
level
thinking of
super
this movie.
Villains.
You know, you don't have that like epic good versus evil moment. You're just looking at
I'm not talking about an epic good versus evil moment in general. What I'm talking about here is that you have to have
for all that stuff happens.
You have to have a reason for shit.
No, you
right?
don't.
And everything happens for a reason. First of all, that's just how reality works, right? There's cause and effect.
Yeah,
These are the laws of physics.
People hate things
for hating things.
Reasonably.
I get that, but not that much. You have never hated anything as much as every person who doesn't have powers hates people who have powers in this movie.
You're wrong.
Yeah, I don't.
Because there's a lot
the ending being literally a complete fucking waste of time. The last 5 minutes of this movie, cut them out and leave it a mystery, because it would have been better. The end is fucking dumb.
Well,
it is so dumb.
The end I didn't think was dumb, but I don't like the ending.
Oh, the end was fucking super dumb.
The end itself
was just... The end was either, like, we're gonna do another one, but they didn't have enough confidence to lean into it, or the end was, oh my god, it's the last day of filming, we have to fucking finish this movie. And so they wrapped it up, but that's just...
It's not a feel-good ending.
It doesn't make sense.
And it's not a happy ending, and it certainly doesn't resolve any, like, issues or character arc things. Oh, and that's really the thing that I had the biggest problem with, is the ending was just kind of like, oh, well, that's depressing, I'm gonna... Yeah.
The ending is basically
Burgers.
just like stuff like we're done now. You've seen enough. Please leave. Here's credits. Go.
But in that respect, I felt like that was very real life, because if you were in a situation like that, you probably aren't going to have a super happy ending.
No, and I don't care that the ending's happy or not. That doesn't... Who fucking cares about happy endings? It's just that the ending was just... I mean, really, I think that it's just overall, this is another example of... And, you know, I don't know if this is a Netflix original movie or not. I don't know who the production company is behind it. But this is another example of a modern movie that's a fucking rough draft. Like, get a second person in there to look at it. Like, when you don't edit your own fucking book, right? You have editors for that. You know, get a second draft on this. Flush out some shit. Level out some characters that were just, like, sort of existed without any logic in the story. There was just stuff happening, you know? Like there's no ramifications for Stephen Amell, threatening the manager.
Yeah.
You know? Like there's a lot of weird filler shit in this movie. And what's weird is because the plot shit is good, but the filler shit is just not good. And what it does, it drags the plot down because that filler shit has no justification within the story, but also has no ramifications later on in the story. Like, you have these filler scenes that exist within this movie that neither further the movie nor expound upon the background in the movie or anything. It's just like a thing that happens. That's it. It's just a thing that happens. And then they move on to the next thing that happens while we're filling time for, really, I feel like this movie's 45 minutes with 45 minutes worth of filler.
Yeah.
It's half a movie. And maybe that's because they wanted it to be a show, although I doubt they could have afforded it to be a show. The graphics on the robots are just too good. I mean, it's way better than what most TV's doing nowadays.
Or part of a series.
Or part of a series or something.
And I don't think that there's really anything wrong with that.
A second movie making the universe three-dimensional would certainly help, because right now it's a very one-dimensional universe.
Yeah.
Right? And that's, really my main problem with the movie is that it is really a one-dimensional universe. It's the first fucking 12 comics in a brand new series of comics that it's like, all right, that's cool. You got a lot of fucking splaining to do.
Well, and I would actually like to see them explain more.
Yeah,
if they did more of this, I'd be super down to watch more.
If they did a second movie, I think that it would be incredibly beneficial, and I think they could flesh the universe out and give it a second and third dimension, because as it currently stands, I mean, really, there aren't any character arcs, there's not a lot of plot development, there's not a lot of universal depth. The movie relies very, very heavily on the fact that, one, the CGI, the graphics, and fuck, Jesus Christ, maybe it's all practical effects, I have no clue. But the graphics are amazing.
Yeah.
And Robbie and Stephen Amell are such fucking incredible actors and have such natural chemistry because they're fucking brothers that it makes it a good movie. But it's a really one-dimensional, not great movie that has a really awesome concept, really, really awesome, grounded in reality sort of concept, and a really, really awesome set of actors, and whatever company did their graphics just crushed it, knocked it out of the fucking park.
Yeah.
Right? But then, that's it. That's the parts of the movie that I can say are good. And then everything else in the movie is just kind of okay, yeah,
so
it was predictable and shit. I mean, I'm going to give this 3 out of 5.
I would also give this 3 out of 5.
Because, again, the parts that were good were really good, and I really do want to know more about the universe.
Some help.
But the other parts were just fucking bad.
It's almost a 4 out of 5 because you can feel that they put a lot of care and a lot of effort into it, and it feels like it's just so close to being right there where you want it to be. And for me, it's like, if I could give it a 3.5 out of 5, that's really where I want to be. It has to be a whole number.
No, not whole numbers.
Yeah, we can't do that.
We don't do none of that half-star nonsense. Assholes. 7 stars or any of that shit.
7.5 stars. You're like, what?
Yeah.
I would give this a 3 out of 5. So it's definitely worth a watch.
Yeah, it's definitely worth checking out.
Especially if you like Stephen, especially if you like Stephen Amell and anything that he's been in.
Robbie Amell, you like that sort of superhero action stuff.
Kind of action powers kind of stuff.
I mean,
you want something.
This is what I have to say. It is this movie has a great deal of shit. It has a large amount of crap in it, but for all of the dumb things that are in this movie, it's still better than the last 3 X-Men movies.
Unfortunately, yes, and I am an X-Men.
I mean, we've got that at least, right? You want to see an X-Men movie that doesn't just really blow ass? Watch this movie.
Yeah.
You want to see a movie that's good? Watch a Marvel movie. DC hasn't figured it out. X-Men hasn't figured it out.
Yeah.
So
anyway, that's what we watched. What did you guys watch Memorial Day weekend?
Yeah, have you watched any movies recently? We are almost ready to do. We have like half of the last season of My Hero left. So
we'll be doing a thing for that.
We should be doing a My Hero video.
Once we finish this kitchen, I've got some more cool cooking videos for you guys.
We're doing the kitchen, so
you
can't do cooking videos right now.
Nope.
But
in fact, this is the only finished area that you can see right here, and it's not even really finished. So.
Like this video, comment below, subscribe to this channel.
Share, subscribe.
I've been John Norgrove. This has been Wife. This is Review Jive. We watched Code 8. Stephen Amell's fantastic. Somebody needs to learn how to write. So that's what I'm going to say about that.
Yep.
Cheers.